question, if you please. They are on oil paintings, yes.
I wonder, a question of Mr. Reeves. You know, Gordon shot something this before. I was wondering if these action movies, was he ever seriously injured in one of his films?
Any of you gentlemen injured in action movies?
Oh yeah. I was. We were using a lion in Africa, and it was a big beauty. It was raised in captivity, incidentally, but a big black maned lion. His name was Bobby, and during the filming, he worked out very well. You know, like he would roll around on the ground, and the claws wouldn't come out or anything. He was very well trained. And after the film, the English newspapers wanted to do an interview with me, along with the lion. And we were at the New Stanley Hotel, and there were 4 or 5 representatives from each paper. I think the Observer and Daily Mirror, 2 or 3 others. And they were in this room like this, at a table, and I was on the floor out here, and I had a pair of slacks on, and a shirt, a light shirt, and tennis shoes. And Bobby was laying on my lap, and they were asking me questions about the performance of the animal. And I was, you know, talking to them. And on the far end of the table, the representative from the Observer, I remember, a woman, she had a flash camera, and she popped the camera, and it scared the hell out of Bobby. And he went for the first thing that was there, and it was me, of course. And he hit me like a slap on the leg, like that. And I went over the table, and he'd taken the one leg off of my pair of slacks. And so the trainer finally came in and got him out, calmed him down and got him out. And so I walked around the end of the table, standing there, and my leg felt numb. And the woman that did this thing looked down at my leg and just passed out. She went over. And his claws, the 2 of them, they have a dew claw up here, a big one, and it hit me with a scrape like that. It caught me, and it missed my shin bone about 1/8 of an inch. And if it hit that, it would have taken the whole calf off. And so they got me to the hospital and sewed it up. I had 42 stitches in it, and I think they gave me 2 or 3 different kinds of tetanus shot because their claws are filthy. But that was really the closest I've ever come to really. And it wasn't his fault either. It was the bird from the Observer.
I had nothing compared to that. Lots of bumps and bruises.
Well, then don't tell. If you can't say anything worse, don't say it at all.
That's right. You got it.
Well, that's what the habit they have in motion pictures is to save the most dangerous scenes to the last day or 2. I know when I had to fight with a tiger or a lion, it would always be the last day or 2. You got killed or hurt, they had to film what they can. Really, they do that. Well, I had a very serious injury one time. It was on the last days of Pompeii. It was a scene where this girl was supposed to be in a chariot that was running away. And there's a little Italian guy down under the hood of it there, holding on to the front guiding it. And they happened to hit a bump, and he really did bounce out. So it really wasn't a runaway chariot. But I was supposed to do it in the first place. I was supposed to go there and lift the girl off like this onto my horse and save her. But the chariot was actually running away. So what I had to do was run beside the chariot with my horse, jump on the chariot, and pull the reins in. And being a horseman, you know that just pulling the reins straight in isn't going to do anything. You have to turn in circles because it's more difficult for a horse to slow down and stop running away. So when I was pulling in circles, it hit some gravel and slid into a tree. Boom, my shoulder. And I got out, and this finger here was bent the opposite way. So I put it back in, and my shoulder was like this. So I put it between my knees, my hand, and nice boom like this. It sounded like a cannon going off, and it hurt quite a lot. And that was the day before end of the film. So the next day, it felt a little sore, but not too bad. The next day, it was the last scene in the last days of Pompeii, where Mount Vesuvius had erupted, and the whole town's on fire. Everybody's running to the docks to save themselves. And so when I got there, the docks was on fire with diesel oil. What I had to do was jump off the pier or wharf, whatever it was, and swim underwater for about, across this boom, something like that to the boat. When I got into there, I did a breaststroke, boom. Every time I did do the stroke, I could feel gripping in my shoulder. I couldn't come up because I burned myself. I just had to bear it, the pain. And my shoulder was the same since, never. In fact, I quit my career at the age of 45 because I just couldn't stand the pain anymore. The last, because it was always action, it wasn't Shakespeare, you know. And my last film was a Western called A Long Life in Hell. And we saved the fight scene to the last day. And before that scene, we used to have to put hot packs on that shoulder and do the scene, and afterwards put some ice on it, then wait for a few hours, have lunch or something, then do the rest of the scene. So it just wasn't worth it anymore.
Yeah,
That was my injuries.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I'll tell you one more thing that involves Steve. We were doing the end of the fight scene, and the end of Romulus and Reeves, Duel of the Titans here. And before the sword fight, we were hitting each other in the mouth, and of course it was fake, of course. And this one shot, Steve went back and he came around, and it must have been a beautiful camera shot, you know, from the angle and so forth. But his knuckle just ticked my tooth, and I cap on my tooth, and the cap went flying down. Do you remember that?
And I mean, to me, it was disastrous. But it was really funny to me, you know, because they're shooting a close-up of me, and he was with his back to the camera, they couldn't see that. And this guy with a tooth missing, you know, I was fighting. I always had to laugh instead of being serious and being tough. I always had to laugh, you know.
Yeah, it was funnier than him. So I did and I think it didn't hurt. You know, it didn't hurt at all. But the fact is, visually, it was funny. And I said, no close-ups, please. I remember that. Oh, it was funny, though. We had a great time. And it was a good fight. Yeah.
John Hart, would you share some memories of working with Lon Chaney and Best of the Mohicans before, behind the camera?
Okay. Working with Chaney was very interesting. He was a consummate actor, and working with him was like going to drama school in a way. So it was a great experience, but he had one little problem. He drank a fifth of Jim Beam by noon and a fifth by 6 o'clock every single day. Now, you know, he was famous for doing all those horror films, you know, The Mummy and The Werewolf and all that kind of stuff. And I was in a situation like we are today, and somebody raised his hand, and I said, yes. He says, hey, did Chaney ever turn into a monster on you? I said, yeah, every day about 5 o'clock. But I don't know, I worked with him for almost a year up there. We lived in the same apartment house, and we went to work and came back together, and I don't think I knew him hardly any better at the end of the time than I did when I started. He was a strange man, but he was a true professional actor. He never was like a drunk. We just did his dialogue in the morning. But he was never late. He always knew his lines. He was a professional.
Yeah, I worked with John Carradine, and he was similar to what your situation. And we'd come back from Africa, and we were doing interior shots in England at Shepperton Studios, and we were going to match a shot that we shot in Africa, and it was going through a swamp, and they used wet sawdust that makes it look very mucky and so forth. And so it was very cold. There was snow on the ground, and they would put a bottle of brandy, the English does, a bottle of brandy in your dressing room every day just to warm up. Now, I didn't drink at all then. And so about noon, John Carradine comes up to me and he says, "Oh, I've seen you misplaced my brandy." And I said, "Well, why did you take mine, John?" "You're my good chum." So I gave him the brandy, and would see him until about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and by that time he was really wacko. And so the seasons that we would, my little party would walk through the swamp first, very slowly, and get up on the bank and go where we were going. Then John and his sons, the bad guys, would come and do the same thing. So here comes John. We went through it, okay. And here comes John and Jock Mahoney and Al Mulock and George playing his son. And here comes, and the only thing that was holding him up was the sawdust of that sawdust. And he came out on the bank, you know, and he looked down for the footprints and he said, "They went that way," and fell right on his face. And so they picked him up by the neck, and here he was, and he had all over his face. And he's very professional. He said, "Did we get the shot?" He's a wonderful guy, great actor too. And you know, he does some marvelous things with really great actor, or great directors, John Ford and so forth. And if you could hold John Carradine from climbing the walls, you know, if you could control his enthusiasm for his art, he was an incredible actor. He did things in The Grapes of Wrath. I know you must have seen him in that as a preacher, and it makes you cry. No joke, his ability that he wasted on some of that, that beat. The crazy professor. I love the old jazz.
Yes, sir.
I just talking about, earlier you asked about being injured by animals. I just wondered, Mr. Hart, what you remember about being around cattle for the rawhide locations?
Being around cattle?
Yeah, would they just have a few of them and they make it look like a lot, or they?
Well, there's no longer the great herds around here, so they probably get at the most 100 head, and just photograph them going through here and going through there, and it made them look like 1,000 head. But
They didn't ever cause problems. I mean, take more time than
no, they had lots of wranglers and the guys that owned the cattle and lots of cowboys. So they never, I don't recall any problem with the cattle at all. It's more the actors.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Another question, please. Yes, sir.
Mr. Reeves, when your acting career ended, what profession did you turn to?
I retired. I have a ranch on northern San Diego. I breed train my horses. I have avocados and oranges, and I spend my time doing that. And I also like to travel. I'd like to tell you a story that you might find interesting about injuries. When I was doing my first Hercules, there was a scene where I had the chains, and they looked like they're steel. They're really hardwood antique, looked like steel. And the scene was where this arm was coming towards me, and I had to swing these chains toward these men. And at first I just swung them in a minimal manner, not to really hurt these people. And the director said, swing this chain, swing them hard. I said, I don't want to hurt them. He said, well, if they don't get hurt, they don't get paid. So I didn't want those guys to go home without their salary. And something else happened to me. I was in New York City at an Italian restaurant, and the head waiter made come out to me, and he said, my table I was with a lot of different athletes there. Steve was at the time. Walker, what's his first name? Walker from Georgia.
Oh, Herschel?
Herschel Walker and two other guys were there. And so this man came up to me and said, hey, I got to thank Steve Reeves. He said, he punched me, I get $100. He said, one time he broke my rib, I got $500. He threw me off the ship. He says, thanks to Steve Reeves, I got the money to come here to America. Thank you very much, Steve Reeves. They're actually in front of the whole place there, you know.
Somebody back here raised their hand earlier, or the back over in that. Yes.
Yes, this is the part on the long range